Imagine this. You're sitting on your couch, scrolling through your favorite shows. Your partner walks in, not alone, but with someone you've never seen before, and the moment she steps inside, your world shifts in a way you'd never expect. Hi everyone, I'm so glad you're here because I need to tell you about the night my life changed forever. What started as an ordinary evening turned into something so surreal, so unthinkable, that even now I'm not sure I've fully processed it. Let me set the stage. My name's Clara, and my husband, Ryan, and I have been married for 6 years. We've been through a lot, ups, downs, the kind of struggles every couple faces. But I always thought we had a solid foundation. Trust, honesty, loyalty, all the things that keep a marriage together. Or so I thought. It was a Thursday night, one of those quiet evenings where nothing extraordinary is supposed to happen. Ryan had been working late a lot recently, which wasn't unusual. He's a project manager, so late hours come with the territory. But lately, something felt different. He was distracted, always on his phone, and when I'd ask him what was going on, he'd brush it off with vague answers like, just work stuff, or nothing to worry about. I wanted to believe him. I really did. But when he walked through the door that night with a strange young woman following closely behind him, my heart dropped. She was beautiful, no, stunning, like someone who stepped out of a glossy magazine. Her long auburn hair glowed under the warm lights of our living room, and she carried herself with this quiet confidence that instantly made me feel small. And then there was the way Ryan looked at her, not like he looked at me. No, this was different. Clara, this is Sophia, Ryan said casually, like this was the most normal thing in the world. Sophia smiled, her expression unreadable, as if she knew something I didn't. I could barely find my voice. Hi, Sophia. What's going on? Ryan exchanged a quick glance with her before turning back to me. Then, he said the words that made my stomach churn. We need to talk. Those 4 little words, the universal sign that nothing good is about to follow. Those 4 little words, the universal sign that nothing good is about to follow. I felt like my mind was racing 100 miles a minute. Who is she? Why was she here? And why on earth did Ryan look so calm when everything about this screamed wrong? But before I could even begin to process what was happening, Sophia stepped forward. This is going to sound strange, she said, her voice steady and composed, but you need to trust me. Trust her? A woman I'd never met, brought here by my husband? At that moment, a million questions exploded in my mind, but none of them mattered because the next thing she said turned my entire world upside down. Want to know what it was? Stick around, because this story is just getting started. Sophia's words hung in the air, heavy and unsettling. You need to trust me. I stood frozen, my mind grappling with the impossibility of the situation. Ryan's face was unreadable, but the way he avoided my eyes told me enough. He knew exactly how this looked, yet there wasn't an ounce of regret or hesitation in his demeanor. Trust you. I repeated, my voice sharper than I intended. You walk into my house with some stranger, and I'm supposed to just, smile and go along with whatever is happening? Ryan stepped forward, hands raised like he was trying to calm a storm before it hit. Clara, listen. I know this is strange. Strange? I snapped, cutting him off. Ryan, this is insane. Who is she? Why is she here? Sophia glanced at Ryan, as if silently asking for permission to speak. He nodded, and she turned her attention to me. Her gaze was intense, but not threatening. If anything, it felt like she was studying me, trying to decide how much she could say. I know how this must look, Sophia began, her voice calm and deliberate, but I'm not here to cause trouble. In fact, I'm here to help you. I let out a bitter laugh. Help me? With what, exactly? Sophia hesitated for a fraction of a second, but in that brief pause, I noticed something in her expression. Guilt, maybe? Or was it fear? She took a deep breath. This isn't easy to explain, and you're not going to believe me at first, but there's something going on, something that involves both of you, and if we don't act now, it could destroy everything you've built together. Her words were vague enough to sound like nonsense, but the conviction in her voice made it impossible to dismiss outright. My eyes darted to Ryan, hoping for some kind of explanation. Instead, he stood there silently, his jaw tight. What is she talking about? I demanded, my voice trembling. Ryan, what are you telling me? He finally met my eyes, and the weight in his gaze made my chest tighten. Clara, she's right. Something's happening, something I can't explain. I felt like the ground beneath me was shifting. This wasn't just about Sophia anymore. Whatever they were keeping from me was bigger than I'd imagined, and the fact that Ryan, the man I thought I knew better than anyone, was in on it only made it worse. Start explaining, I said, my tone firm despite the whirlwind of emotions inside me. Now, Ryan opened his mouth to speak, but Sophia cut him off. Not here, she said. Her interruption startled me, and for a moment, I couldn't find the words to argue. Sophia turned to Ryan, her voice low but urgent. If you tell her now without the proof, she won't believe you. You know that. Ryan hesitated before nodding, his expression torn. She's right, Clara, he said, his voice pleading. Just give us a little time to show you, please. I crossed my arms, more out of self-defense than defiance. Show me what? Sophia stepped closer, her tone softening. I know you don't trust me, but you'll understand soon. All I'm asking is for you to come with us, just for an hour. If I'm wrong, I'll leave, and you'll never hear from me again. Her words sent a chill down my spine. I didn't trust her, not one bit, but something in the way Ryan looked at me, pleading, almost desperate, made it clear that if I refused, I might never get the answers I needed. Against every instinct screaming at me to slam the door in her face, I found myself saying, fine. 1 hour. But after that, I'm done. Little did I know, that 1 hour would change everything. The car ride was eerily silent, broken only by the rhythmic hum of the tires on the road. Ryan sat stiffly in the driver's seat, his hands gripping the steering wheel so tightly his knuckles turned white. Sophia sat in the back, staring out the window, her expression unreadable. And me? I was in the passenger seat, arms crossed, trying to make sense of the whirlwind I'd just stepped into. Ryan hadn't told me where we were going, only that I'd understand everything when we got there. That didn't sit well with me. The man who once couldn't keep a secret about what he got me for Christmas was now embroiled in something big enough to bring a stranger into our home, a stranger who clearly knew more about my husband than I did. Every so often, I glanced at Sophia in the rearview mirror. She hadn't said much since we left, but her presence loomed large. There was something unsettling about her calmness, as though she knew exactly how this would play out. Finally, I broke the silence. So, are either of you going to tell me where we're going, or do I just keep playing the clueless wife in this little drama? Ryan flinched as if my words had physically struck him. We're almost there, he said quietly. That's not an answer, I snapped. It's complicated, Sophia chimed in, her tone annoyingly even, and if we tried to explain it now, you'd just have more questions. I whipped around to face her. You've already dragged me into this mess. The least you can do is give me something. For a moment, Sophia held my gaze, and I could see her debating whether or not to speak. Finally, she leaned forward slightly, her voice low and deliberate. There's someone who wants to hurt you, she said. Both of you. And if we don't act now, they'll succeed. Her words sent a shiver down my spine. Who? Why? I can't say yet, Sophia replied, her tone maddeningly cryptic. But I promise you'll understand soon. I let out a frustrated sigh, turning back to face the road. This wasn't just a bad dream, it was a full-blown nightmare. The car pulled into a narrow driveway leading to a house I didn't recognize. It was small and nondescript, with peeling paint and a single flickering porch light, definitely not the kind of place I expected to find answers. Here? I asked skeptically. Ryan nodded, cutting the engine. This is it. As we stepped out of the car, Sophia walked ahead, her movements deliberate, like she'd been here before. Ryan fell in step beside her, leaving me trailing behind. Inside, the air was cold and musty. The faint scent of mildew hung in the air. The living room was sparsely furnished, a worn-out couch, a rickety coffee table, and an old television set. The living room was sparsely furnished. Mismatched chairs and a coffee table covered in old newspapers filled the space. But what caught my attention was the man sitting in the corner. He was older, maybe mid-60s, with piercing gray eyes and a face lined with years of experience and secrets. "This is her?" he asked, his gaze locking onto me. Sophia nodded. "Yes, Clara, meet William. He's the reason we're here." I didn't know what I expected, but it certainly wasn't this. William's eyes bore into me, and for the first time all night, I felt genuinely afraid. "You're in more danger than you realize," he said, his voice gravelly and firm, "and if you want to survive, you'll have to trust us, no matter how crazy this gets." And with that, the walls of my reality began to crumble. William's words hung heavy in the stale air of the room, and for a moment, I forgot how to breathe. More danger than I realize? I stared at him, my mind scrambling to make sense of everything I'd heard, or rather, hadn't heard. No one seemed keen on giving me straight answers. Danger? From what? From who? I asked, my voice wavering between anger and fear. William leaned forward in his chair, his gray eyes sharp and unyielding. "It's not a simple answer," he began, "but let me start with this. You've been watched, Clara. Both of you have." My stomach turned. Watched? By who? Ryan shifted uncomfortably beside me, his silence betraying his guilt. My heart sank as I turned to him. "You knew, didn't you?" I demanded, my voice trembling. "Clara, Ryan started, but his voice faltered, and he looked away. "You knew," I shouted, my voice rising. "You knew we were being watched, and you didn't tell me? What else are you keeping from me, Ryan?" Before he could respond, William cut in. "There's no time for this. If we're going to stop what's coming, you need to focus." "And what exactly is coming?" I demanded, my patience running dangerously thin. "I'm tired of these vague warnings and half-truths. If someone's coming after me, I deserve to know why." William sighed, the weight of his words evident in his expression. "It's someone from Ryan's past, someone who's been waiting for the right moment to strike. And now, they've found their opening." I turned to Ryan, my pulse racing. "Who?" Ryan finally met my eyes, and the pain in his expression was undeniable. "Her name is Vanessa," he said quietly. "Vanessa?" The name was a punch to the gut, but it didn't mean anything to me. "Who is she?" Ryan hesitated, his gaze flickering to Sophia as if seeking her permission to speak. She gave him a subtle nod. "She's someone I used to know," Ryan admitted, his voice heavy with regret. "Before me? Before us." I pressed, unwilling to let him off the hook. Ryan rubbed the back of his neck, a nervous habit I hadn't seen in years. "And she didn't take it well when things ended. I didn't think she'd ever come back, but I was wrong." "Ryan," William interrupted, his voice sharp, "this isn't just about a woman scorned. Vanessa's been planning this for years. She's dangerous, and she doesn't care who gets hurt." My heart was pounding so loudly I could barely think. I wanted to scream, to demand answers, but before I could say anything, Sophia spoke up. "She's already close," Sophia said, her voice laced with urgency. "We've been tracking her movements, and we think she's planning to make her move tonight." "Tonight?" The word sent a chill down my spine. "What does she want?" I whispered. William's expression darkened. "Revenge. And she's willing to destroy everything you hold dear to get it." At that moment, the faint sound of glass shattering echoed from somewhere in the house. My blood ran cold as everyone froze, exchanging looks of alarm. "She's here," Sophia whispered. And just like that, the nightmare became real. The sound of shattering glass jolted me, every nerve on high alert. My gaze darted to the source of the noise, a window in the next room, barely visible from where we stood. The faint rustle of movement followed, too deliberate to be a coincidence. "She's here," Sophia repeated, her voice just above a whisper. Ryan grabbed my arm, his grip firm but trembling. "We need to get out of here. Now." But William stood unshaken, his gaze locked on the broken window. "No. Leaving now only makes us easier targets. If she's here, we have a chance to confront her, to stop this once and for all." "Confront her?" I shot back, my voice climbing an octave. You're talking about a woman who's been stalking us for who knows how long, and you want to confront her in some rundown house? She's not here to talk, Sophia said grimly, stepping forward and pulling something from her coat. My breath caught when I realized it was a small handgun. You're carrying a gun? I asked, my voice trembling. Because I know what Vanessa's capable of, Sophia replied, checking the safety with a calm efficiency that unnerved me. If you understood the lengths she's gone to just to get here, you wouldn't hesitate either. I opened my mouth to respond, but the sound of footsteps interrupted me, slow, deliberate, and getting closer. My heart hammered in my chest as my mind raced through worst-case scenarios. Clara, William said quietly, his voice a low rumble. No matter what happens, you stick close to me. Do you understand? I nodded, unable to find my voice. The footsteps stopped, and for a moment, the silence was suffocating. Then, a soft, almost melodic voice echoed through the house. Well, the gang's all here, the voice called. It was a woman. And though I'd never met Vanessa, I knew instantly it was her. Ryan opened his mouth, but Vanessa spoke first. You mean he hasn't told you? Wow, Ryan, you really are the worst. Let me help you out, Clara. Your perfect husband hasn't been entirely honest with you. Shut up, Vanessa. Ryan barked, his voice cracking. But it was too late. Vanessa held up the notebook and began flipping through the pages. Ryan and I have history, as you've probably guessed. But what he didn't tell you is how much he owed me, and how far he was willing to go to protect his precious little life with you. What are you talking about? I asked, my heart pounding. She turned a page and held it up. Scrawled across it were dates, payments, and addresses, evidence of something far more calculated than I could have imagined. Ryan's face crumbled. Clara, I was trying to protect you. I didn't want you to get dragged into this. Dragged into what? I demanded, my voice rising. What did you do? Vanessa stepped closer, her grin widening. Ryan borrowed money from me years ago, a lot of money. When he couldn't pay it back, he made a deal. He promised me something much more valuable. She paused, letting the tension build. He promised to give me you. The room spun as her words hit me like a freight train. What? Ryan shook his head frantically. That's not true, Clara. I would never. Don't lie, Ryan. Vanessa interrupted coldly. I have the proof right here. She tapped the notebook. I stumbled back, the edges of my vision blurring. Is this true? Did you trade me to her? Ryan's silence was answer enough. Before I could fully process the betrayal, Vanessa turned to Sophia. And you, always playing the hero. Did you tell them who sent you to protect them? Sophia's grip on the gun faltered, her lips pressed into a thin line. What does she mean? I asked, the air thick with suspicion. Sophia hesitated, then lowered the gun. I didn't come here to save you, Clara. I came here to make sure Vanessa got what she wanted. The betrayal hit like a second blow, and before I could react, Sophia turned the gun on Ryan. You thought you could cheat both of us, didn't you? Sophia said, her voice icy. Stop. I screamed, stepping between them. Enough. But before anyone could move, a loud bang echoed through the room. For a moment, I thought Vanessa had pulled another trick, but it was William. He held a second gun, smoke curling from the barrel as he stepped forward. Vanessa staggered, clutching her side, her confident smirk replaced by shock. She dropped the notebook, its pages scattering across the floor. William's voice was calm, almost eerily so. This ends now. Vanessa fell to her knees, but even as she gasped for air, she laughed, a chilling, bitter sound. You think this is over? She rasped. You don't even know what's coming. And then, with one final cryptic smile, she collapsed. The silence was deafening as we stood there, processing what had just happened. Ryan reached for me, but I stepped back, shaking my head. Don't, I said, my voice barely above a whisper. You lied to me. Both of you. The last thing I saw before walking out was the notebook. Its pages revealed the twisted web of secrets I had unknowingly lived in for years. But as I stepped into the night, Vanessa's final words echoed in my mind, leaving me with a chill that no betrayal could match. You don't even know what's coming. The air outside the house was cold and biting, but it was nothing compared to the chill that had settled deep in my chest. I stood on the cracked driveway, staring up at the stars, wondering how everything had unraveled so completely. Vanessa was gone. Ryan's lies had shattered any trust one had left, and Sophia, well, I still didn't know what to make of her. Ryan eventually followed me outside, his footsteps crunching on the gravel, hesitant and heavy. "Clara," he said softly. But I didn't turn around. "What could you possibly say to me now?" I asked, my voice quiet but firm. "I didn't mean for any of this to happen," he said. "I was desperate, and I thought I could fix it before it ever touched you." I finally turned to face him, my arms crossed tightly against my chest. "You didn't protect me, Ryan. You betrayed me. And now? I don't even know who you are anymore." His face crumpled, and for a brief moment, I saw the man I had fallen in love with, the one who had always seemed so steady and strong. But that version of Ryan had been hiding something darker, something I couldn't forgive. Before he could say more, William and Sophia emerged from the house. William's expression was grim, and Sophia wouldn't meet my eyes. She still held the gun at her side, her earlier confidence now replaced by something that looked a lot like shame. "You're leaving, aren't you?" William asked, his gravelly voice cutting through the tense air. I nodded. "There's nothing left for me here." William's gaze softened. "Smart choice." As I started walking toward my car, Sophia finally spoke. "Clara, I'm sorry." I stopped but didn't turn around. "Are you sorry for helping her, or are you sorry because she lost?" Sophia didn't answer, and I didn't wait for one. The drive home was quiet, the kind of silence that feels louder than any sound. My thoughts swirled, each one a jagged shard of the life I thought I had. Ryan's betrayal, Vanessa's obsession, Sophia's duplicity. And yet, through it all, I couldn't shake Vanessa's final words. "You don't even know what's coming." What had she meant? Was this really over, or had tonight just been the beginning of something worse? By the time I reached my driveway, exhaustion had settled over me like a heavy blanket. I sat in the car for a moment, staring at the house that now felt more like a stranger than a home. As I finally stepped inside, I realized that I couldn't let tonight define me. Vanessa may have tried to destroy my life, and Ryan may have betrayed my trust, but I still had control over what came next. Sitting at the kitchen table, I opened my laptop and started typing, pouring every detail of the night into words. If nothing else, people needed to hear this story, not just for closure, but as a warning. And that's why I'm sharing it with you now. So, what do you think? Did this story keep you on the edge of your seat? Let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear your thoughts. And tell me, what kind of stories would you like to hear next? Mysteries? Thrillers? Maybe something lighter? The choice is yours. Thanks for watching, and remember, sometimes the truth is far stranger than fiction.